Welcome to the More Life Podcast, where creatives, problem solvers, and entrepreneurs talk about squeezing more out and finding meaning in this crazy thing we call life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the More Life Podcast. I am your host, Bart Anestin, if you're new around here. And we're glad that you're here. Welcome to the new season. This is season 6, episode 56. And today we're talking about ego and confidence and what does that look like in entrepreneurship and building a business and how can you do it healthily. But first, if you're here, I need you to do a few things for me. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this video if you're watching it on YouTube, leave a comment or a review on Apple Podcasts, share it with your friends. It really does help us in the production, the post-production, the writing, the scheduling, and everything that happens with the More Life Podcast show. We would love for you to be a part of the journey with a lot of the great things that are on their way to be happening and some of the cool things that have already happened. You can be part of the tribe. Come on, we're nice, we're friendly, and we love to share authentic stories and help people navigate this whole world of entrepreneurship and following your passions to see self-fulfillment, happiness, and balance. Okay. Today, like I mentioned, we're talking about ego and confidence, but before we get there, I want to make sure that we hit a few announcements that are not subscribing and following us and all that kind of stuff, but it will transform your thinking and your understanding. Great video. We also have 2 blogs that we did this past month of September. These blogs are the different platforms of e-commerce and which ones are best for your business, as well as an overall marketing strategy for e-commerce. That's also where we did our live with Victoria from Finer Points Commerce, and that was marketing strategies for e-commerce as well. And she's an expert, and she comes and answers those questions. So all those things are happening. We do have an excellent newsletter that is starting up and going out, and you can message me and DM me if you want to be added to the early list. Right now, we are beta testing our cadence and our schedule tempo and all that kind of stuff, and seeing how it's going to be for us before we really make it into a big launch and get on that newsletter bandwagon, sharing great information for those people who love to get it directly to their inboxes and don't have to go scouring the internet for it. All right, so let's get started today with our scheduled programming, talking about ego and confidence and how that works in the workplace. Okay, I've been planning and thinking about 2023 for quite some time now, and it's been hitting me, as we're looking up ahead to what's going on in the business and what's going on in my own life. I couldn't help feel a certain way about confidence and my presence and my ego, for lack of a better terms, and what does that look like in my goal setting and my goal planning. And it just got me thinking, and I thought this would be a great topic of discussion. This is the one feature I wish podcasts would natively have, a great way for us to have dialogue. So I'm going to keep saying message in the comments, let us know in the comments, but what I mean is on YouTube for this podcast, message in the comments, because that's where I'm going to be to have this conversation and to hear what you guys are thinking, and maybe we'll do an update as to what people were thinking about this episode and the next time we talk, which is in 2 weeks, and we can have a little bit of dialogue that way, but we'll figure it out. But really, in the planning of 2023, I was sitting with my thoughts thinking about, okay, what is ego? Because everyone has one. Everyone has that complex. And I genuinely feel that ego in business is required, but it needs to be healthy. Ego can very easily find its way to be an unhealthy thing very easily. I think it has a lot of weight to it, and it kind of makes you more selfish and and less empathetic in every way imaginable, but you do need some of it. I feel like there is something there where you need to have a little bit of ego to help you. Yeah, you're taking on this huge task of starting a business, of building something for yourself by yourself. Most likely than not, if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, you're doing it from the ground up. It's so much work. Those hours that you're putting in, is a little egotistical to believe, almost like, I'm gonna build this thing, and people are like, okay, yeah, okay, sure, like, good for you, and then they see you slaving away at it, and you're like, this guy really is into his thing, and it can feel almost like, you have this sense of accomplishment, but they're kind of, other people who are watching from the outside are like, what's his deal? Why won't he let this go? And that's kind of what it's like when you're starting a business or doing something that you're really passionate. Like when you think about Olympians who have decided at a really young age that they want to train for the Olympics, or they're really good at something, they kind of go a little crazy because of it. Because like, I got to be so laser focused, and your ego is involved in that a little bit. The ideas or the goals that you have start to grow into something more foundational and solid. Then your ego needs to take more of a back seat, because your ego will see any small amount of success and will jump in and try to protect you and itself from it. And we'll talk a little about a bit about that in a few minutes. Yeah, but the ego is there, especially in the beginning when you're starting a business. Confidence is, you get once you become a little bit more successful, and it's well earned. You've done a few things. You're able to close a couple of deals. You're able to hit revenue marks that you've planned out to. But, or the ginormous but here, an entrepreneur whose ego gets too big can actually become a detriment to their growth. And that's the part where you have to find that balance. An ego is super good at the beginning, but I feel like it weighs more, so you have to have much less. Whereas confidence, it's like a 1 pound weight versus a ton of styrofoam. You need lots of naturally aspirated confidence in your purpose, in your drive, but you have to think of it as like styrofoam compared to like a 5 pound or a 2 pound weight. Okay, that is just weighs. It's tiny, but it weighs 2 pounds. It weighs a lot more than a ton of styrofoam. So that's what you have to think about. Like, okay, I just need a drop of ego. Ego is great at that goal setting portion, but when it comes to maintaining your growth, you're going to want to make sure that you have a healthy dose of confidence, and your confidence is a lot more healthy than your ego is, and so it's a better snack to have than to be chewing on ego, because even a little bit of ego, it can really mess with your way that you perceive people, how you perceive your success, how you perceive yourself. Yeah, I'm reminded of a story that Jamie Foxx told on the Netflix show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. He talks about how he got a little bit of success, and he was, a little bit of, what do you call, I think he called it fame weight. He moved to Hollywood, he gets on TV, he's funny, and he gets fame weight. He starts putting on a little bit of weight, and the ego starts to get to him, where he thinks he is that great and that good. See, the thing that got him where he is now is not the thing that's going to sustain and continue the growth. You need to have a little bit of selfish ego when you are at the ground floor, when you are just trying to figure out, how am I going to make it? You're just scraping by, literally scraping by. And then The moment you get any type of solid foundation, a little bit of success, you need to tone down the ego way down and replace it with healthy confidence. And this is what the problem Jamie was having. He used his ego to give him that drive like nothing else could, because it is selfish and you have to be able to call it out as you see it. Having an ego is about you. It's about how people will see you, how people will revere you, and how people will think about you. It's all you. Having confidence is a lot more about having a faith in your abilities and what you can do towards a set goal. So Jamie tells the story saying how he goes into to tell jokes, and now because he has fed himself a healthy diet of ego, his jokes are not relating to people. He's telling rich people jokes. And the room is a bunch of crickets. All you hear is crickets. And he's telling this story to Jerry Seinfeld, who's interviewing him. And you can see the horror in Jamie's face. He's like, oh, I lost it. I lost the thing that made me me. And he talks about near the end of the story about how that's why when he won the Oscar for Ray Charles, for Ray, he gave it to his manager. And Jerry Seinfeld goes, wait, you don't have your own Oscar? He's like, no. Immediately as we got backstage, I went right to my manager and I gave it to him. He said, get this thing away from me. He's like, I don't want it around because I'm confident if I see it every day, if I have it on display, it will get to my head and I'll start speaking in a British accent and I'll start being some type of thespian actor, about how he's going to revolutionize the art space of acting through Charles. And, he starts going on and making a joke about it. But it's true what he's saying. He's saying, I know myself. I understand that, yes, I'm a confident black man. I'm here to make a movie. I'm here to be who I was always intended to be. But I do recognize certain things inside of myself. And if I allow this trophy to stare at me as I stare at it, I'm going to be entranced and my ego will be unleashed. And I will think that it is about me and it's not about everything else and the hundreds of people who are part of this show and the inspiration of Rachel, blah, 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 whatever it is. But this is where ego can really take over and expose the most primal instinct of the modern day era, which is how selfish and self-sabotaging we are all at the same time. Let's talk about this balance of confidence and ego and entrepreneurship a little bit more. All right, so confidence. Confidence is so needed. It drives you, like I said before, to realize your vision, in having faith in your abilities and believing in yourself. These are such healthy ways of almost getting the same result as ego. But ego is one of those things where it's very irreplaceable, especially that's why I say when you're desperate. When you're dreaming, you need a little bit of ego. You need somebody who's going to advocate for you to a fault. But the moment you get some foundation, I think you got to step away from ego in a big way. Ego is self-interested. Like I said, it seeks approval. It seeks accolades. It seeks validation. It's resistant to feedback. Ego doesn't want you to hire team members that are better than you. Ego wants you to be the smartest person in the room. Ego wants you to be the main character in every narrative. So we have to be careful about what ego can and will do to us. It can transform, revolutionize your business in ways that will ostracize and push away everyone who is close to you, everyone who is near and dear to your heart. Ego is like, I don't know, like what's that? The yellow cake. I don't know if is it yellow cake, that the yellow whatever stuff, like the uranium. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's like that uranium. It's so potent. It's so dangerous, and yet I still think we have to find a balance between these things. Because for me, at least my personality, the way that I was thinking about this when I was planning 2023 this past week, is a lot of times your ego helps set your goals, but it's your confidence that helps you reach them. Your ego, your self-interest is the reason why you set these goals. I want to be a content creator. I want to be public speaker on this type of platform. That is ego. Don't get that confused. Okay, don't think that, I'm just, a nice person. I don't have any ego. We all got ego. Ego is great for big picture things and for letting your heart and your mind kind of go wild and dream big. But for you to reach these goals, for you to then apply a empathetic context to these goals, you require confidence. You require the faith that you could accomplish those goals and do them without losing your proverbial soul. You don't have to gain the world to lose your soul complex. You don't want to be in that position. At least I don't want to be in that position where my business is thriving, but I had to ostracize every good part of me to get there, because I think the top can be very lonely, and time again we see this happen where people who are super successful find themselves in a place of isolation because their ego, which got them the fame, did not allow them enough place to breathe empathetically and transformationally, and instead of growing themselves, their understanding of themselves, the ego itself just grew. And the time it takes to set a goal and the time it takes to accomplish a goal is very different. That's the same ratio you have to consider ego and confidence to be in your life, in your entrepreneurship journey. It's a very small time window it takes to set a goal. I want to have, $1 million in revenue in 5 years, whatever it could be. To accomplish that goal, going to take 5 years. So keep that in mind. It can tip the scales in ways that, I don't know. It's very good for you to know what that looks like. It won't help you achieve those goals. I don't know. Let me know in the comment, guys. My mind is still racing about this. I've been thinking about this for the past couple of days. I want you guys to dig deep. Find out if you're being egocentric. Find out if you don't have any ego at all. Then you need to dream and think bigger. Just don't allow your ego to restrict you from achieving the goals that you want to set out in your life. Allow a balanced amount of confidence to guide you in a very hustle forward and self-involved culture that we live in. Balance is key. There's nothing wrong with being confident. I think everyone should have a strong amount of confidence, but it needs to be balanced. And those things are going to help you in ways unimaginable. Dig deep to find yourself, and dig deep to find what's next, and dig deep to grow your business. All right. I've been Bart. Peace out.